Look, I get it. Dating is not easy. However, luckily for all of you single losers out there, Matt Walsh is here to give some brand new dating advice. That's right. If you're single and struggling to find romance in your life, well then who better to take some advice from than the guy who looks like he would stick his d in a tree stump. What's up everybody, Hunter Avalone here, back with another delightful video. And this time, we are once again going to be wreaking havoc on our brain cells by reviewing Matt Walsh. Now, I was scouring the depraved depths of the internet when I came across this video posted by the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Walsh up. So he posted this video only 2 days ago called Women, Here's the Only Question That Matters on a First Date. Judging by this guy's flannel and the fact that he definitely looks like the type of person to eat bugs, women, prepare to take some really valuable advice from this guy.
On Twitter over the weekend, somebody posted an interesting prompt for discussion. The question posed is this: what might you ask on a first date to determine their IQ? Now, lots of people...
What would you ask on a first date to determine someone's IQ? I know. Do you watch Matt Walsh? If the answer is yes, then their IQ is officially in like the negatives, okay? Run. You're dealing with like an incest hillbilly at that point.
Offered answers to this question. Many of the answers were predictably horrible, likely because they were given by people who have no record of success in the dating world. And just to remind you, a record of success in dating does not mean that you've dated a lot of people. That is, in fact, a record of failure, okay? If you've dated a lot of people, you're bad at dating. You're bad at this. No one should listen to you. If you are, say, in your late 20s or early 30s, and you've been on hundreds of dates with many dozens of different people, that doesn't mean that you're good at dating. It means that you are apparently not good at it. In a similar way...
Yeah, but let's be honest. Like, I don't think Matt Walsh would particularly be that great at dating either. Like, let's be real. If there wasn't some arranged marriage in his Amish community or something, he would not be married, and he would not have any luck either with the dating world.
If a college senior is now heading into his 7th year of college... it doesn't mean that he's really good at college. We shouldn't say this guy's great at college. He's been doing it forever. It means precisely the opposite. So dating, like college, should move from one step to the next until you graduate. People qualified to give dating advice, the only people qualified to give it are those who have graduated. And graduation in this case, of course, is marriage. The whole point of dating is to graduate to marriage.
So the graduation of dating is marriage? Where does divorce fall in all of this? Is that like a extracurricular graduation, or... What's the reward there? So like, I've been married, okay? I'm not anymore. Does that mean that I lost my diploma? This is really stupid. Now, of course, he has a bit of a point that obviously if somebody is failing miserably in the dating world or something, then they probably aren't the best people to take advice from. However, just if somebody's been on more dates does not necessarily mean they're bad at it either. That also does not mean that their advice is necessarily bad, because more dates could mean more experience. So they could have some valuable insights there.
One has not yet graduated, then there's, we don't know whether they know how to graduate because they haven't done it. And if they don't know how to do the thing that dating is actually for, they're certainly not equipped to give dating advice.
This is just Matt Walsh saying arbitrarily, dating is only for the purpose of getting married. That's not necessarily true. Dating can serve all kinds of purposes, from getting to know somebody, evaluating compatibility, or even just simply having fun. Dating does not always need to be leading to marriage. This is some warped tradcon perspective here that is, it's arbitrary at the end of the day.
It is a good question, I will say. You should be looking to date someone who is basically intelligent. The only caveat is that you actually shouldn't need to ask any particular question to figure this out. If you are yourself intelligent, then you should be able to assess whether the other person is intelligent just from talking to them for 10 minutes. If you're dumb radar, you're dumb.
That's not really necessarily true. I mean, even like, for example, therapists can be manipulated by their partners and things, even though their job is particularly to look out for stuff like that. And that's because people cannot be on alert 24/7 like that. People need to be able to trust other people at some point. Even if you're an intelligent person and you talk to somebody and you get the vibes that they are intelligent, that does not necessarily mean that they are intelligent. Or if you get the vibes that they're really stupid, that does not mean that they're necessarily really stupid. I mean, sometimes it's true. Like, if I listen to Matt Walsh talk, my stupid sense begins to tingle like crazy, but...
Radar, your dumb-dar, let's call it, is not finely tuned enough to sniff out a dummy in 10 minutes or less. Well, I've got bad news for you. I don't think I need to spell it out. Actually, I do need to spell it out. You're dumb. That's what I'm saying. So with that said, there are questions
So if you can't figure out that somebody's a dummy in 10 minutes of meeting them, then you yourself are dumb? What is this, some kind of sick, twisted game of tag?
There are questions you can ask that will help clarify things pretty quickly. So here's what I advise, with the stipulation that this particular advice only applies to women dating men. So I've given men plenty of dating advice over the years. So this one's for the ladies. If you want to figure out what kind of man you're with intellectually, ask him this question. What historical periods are you interested in?
What in the autism did he just say? Ladies, if you want to know how intelligent the guy is you're with, ask, what historical period are you interested in? What? Guys, if you want to know if you're going out with an autistic girl or not, then look out for this question. If she asks you, what historical time periods are you interested in? Then you know, okay? You can diagnose that person with autism at that point. There are plenty of intelligent people that have very little interest in historical time periods. For example, me, I'm goddamn brilliant, and I also don't really have that much of an interest in history. It's of course quite possible to be very smart in one area and not so smart in another. This is not even a good assessment of somebody's intelligence. If anything, this would be an assessment of somebody's interest in history.
There's a very serious suggestion to any single women. The next time you're on a date, ask that question. It won't tell you everything you need to know about
single women. Don't ask that question next time you're on a date, or you will remain single women.
Guy, but it will tell you a lot, and it may tell you enough. Because an intelligent man with an inquisitive mind will not only have an answer, but will be excited that you asked. Like, you want a man who not only answers it, but is like, oh, thank God, I didn't think you'd be asking me that question on a first date. Thank God. Let's talk about this. His eyes will light.
Really? Finally? Whoa, I'm really interested in ancient Rome. Maybe that should be the follow-up to this. Ladies, after you ask the guy what his favorite historical time period is, if he says ancient Rome, end the date and leave immediately. There are so many intelligent people that suck at history that might be great in other aspects. They might have a very inquisitive mind in other aspects. They might just not care about history. This is such a narrow way to measure intelligence. It doesn't actually make any fucking sense whatsoever.
I think that you brought this up. And he might tell you that he's interested in the American Revolution or the Civil War or ancient Egypt or the early church or the late Roman Empire or the Napoleonic Wars or the Crusades. Or you might be really lucky.
Oh, there's another one. Okay, yeah. If he says he's interested in the Crusades, run. If he says he's interested in the early Catholic Church, run.
Yourself on a date with a guy who has a very specific and slightly more obscure historical interest. Maybe he tells you that he's reading a book right now about the history of Mongolia or the Amazon or 19th century polar exploration or any of 1,000 other possible topics. If he's a smart, interesting guy who likes to read and loves to learn, he can not only rattle off facts about this area of interest, but even more importantly, he can tell you why he's interested in it.
Does Matt Walsh think that smart people just sit around reading fucking history books all day?
But not just what he likes to read about and what historical periods he finds fascinating, but when he tells you what he likes about it, like why does this resonate with him, you can learn more from that than you can from 2 hours of mindless small talk. Now, as the woman, this not only shows you that he's an intelligent guy, but it also provides you an opportunity to make yourself appealing to him. Because a man is not looking for a woman who shares his interests. Okay, just so you know. A man's like, he's not looking for you to like all the same stuff that he likes. If he likes to hunt and to read books about World War II, he doesn't need a woman who also likes to hunt and read books about World War II. In fact, he'd probably be kind of weirded out by that. He's looking for a woman, after all, not another dude. But he does want a woman who is interested in the fact that he is interested in those things.
Listen to that insecure view of masculinity right there. So if a guy meets a girl and she's into the same stuff that he's into, he wants to date a woman, not another dude? Like, what? What a fragile perception of masculinity. Listen, bros, if you're dating a woman that likes all the same things that you like, you're just gay, okay? That's the end of it. Don't even ask any questions. You are a flaming, fabulous homosexual. There's no more arguing.
And is even a little bit impressed by them. So, for instance, my wife does not share my quite rabid interest in fishing. And I've seen her maybe pick up a fishing rod 3 times since we married, while I have picked one up 3 million times. But when I come home from fishing and I report that I just caught the biggest fish ever, she will eagerly ask to see a picture. And when I show her the picture, she'll act legitimately impressed. Now,
okay, that's just called somebody being interested in the same things their partner's interested in. That's just called like basic healthy relationships. Hey, my partner enjoys this thing, and I like to see them happy, so I also take an interest in seeing what they're talking about and hearing what they're talking about, hearing about their experience. In your case, Matt, your wife wants to hear about you going fishing for some fucking reason. And that's great because she cares about you. She wants you to be happy. So when you're happy, she cares about that. It's also a two-way street. So this does not only go for women. It also goes for men just the same. Dudes, you also should care about what your partner is interested in and what makes her happy also. This is like standard non-toxic shit. And also, I should probably rephrase then, now that he's talking about fishing, maybe he's not the kind of guy to fuck a tree stump, but he's the type of dude to fuck a fish.
But I appreciate the effort. It's very feminine and affectionate for a woman to make her man feel special and accomplished in those moments. A woman who rolls her eyes and makes it clear that she doesn't
Why can't the man do that for the woman also? Like, help her feel really accomplished and proud of herself with things as well. Like, it goes both ways, right? Why is that like a feminine thing?
On the flip side, if a man is asked what historical periods interest him and he cannot answer the question, or even scoffs at it, or offers up some generic historical subject but then can't explain why he finds it interesting or speak at any length about it, that's a good sign that he's a boring midwit with a shallow, incurious mind.
Really? See, I feel like you could ask so many other questions, and just if they're not interested in history does not mean that they are a midwit. What if somebody's really into like politics or social sciences or something else besides just history? It seems like a complete and total arbitrary and narrow perspective to have, and it also sounds like you would be missing out on potentially some very smart and interesting people that they might just not find history specifically to be that interesting.
Now, the chances are very substantial that a man who has no interest in history and no knowledge of it at all is pretty stupid. The overlap between stupid and historically illiterate among men is extremely high. Now, it's not that being historically illiterate is the same thing as being stupid. It's that historical illiteracy is one of the most glaringly obvious signs pointing to stupidity. Just like we might say,
this doesn't even make any sense considering the fact that like IQ even isn't measured by any kind of knowledge of history. So for him to say that somebody who's not interested in history is a sign that they're stupid, that is such bullshit. Uh-oh, look at this. Interesting, Matt Walsh. Albert Einstein failed the history section of the entrance exam for the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology when he was 16 years old. He failed language and history. Uh-oh. So you're telling me that one of the smartest men to ever live also failed history? Oh no. Oh, Matty boy. It sounds like an interest in history has very little to do with overall intelligence, my friend. Yeah, Albert Einstein had an IQ of 160 to 190, and he failed history. Like, that anecdote right there really puts a huge dent in Matt Walsh's overall argument.
just as in the majority of cases, a guy who's never voluntarily read a book about history in his life is a dumbass. Now, the great thing about my tweet on this...
now that we know this thing about Albert Einstein failing history, it's really fucking funny hearing Matt Walsh say this dumb shit. It's like he thinks he's in a position to give advice, but the fact that his advice is so abysmally bad, it actually exposes him as being a dummy. It actually exposes Matt Walsh as being the person with the low IQ.
subject is that it proved itself because the replies quickly filled with dumb guys who aren't interested in history trying to explain why not being interested in history doesn't make them dumb. But their explanations were all very dumb because they're dumb. There were many comments claiming that history
This is such a crazy ad hom. There were so many guys responding to me saying how they can be smart and not like history, but their responses were dumb because they were dumb. That's the best you got, Mr. Matt? Man, you really are Walshed up.
Instead, you declare that nothing matters if it occurred before you were born. You're not interested in anything that happened to occur before you entered the scene. And because you've turned up your dumb little nose at everything that occurred in the world prior to the moment of your birth, you have no sense of perspective. You don't even understand the things that are happening in the world today because you don't know anything about what precipitated those things.
I'm sorry, Matt, but again, you are the person that does not recognize how dumb they are because you are in no position to be giving this kind of advice. Your advice is flawed. We already know that interest in history does not really have much to do with intelligence overall. Albert Einstein was bad at history. Even general IQ tests don't look at history. Second of all, again, your argument falls flat because some of these people that you would claim are dumb are actually very accepting of people like trans people and gay people, which you, Matt, aren't. I'm going to assume from your advice that you are somewhat interested in history, but yet the perspective that you've gained from reading all these history books hasn't helped you at all. It hasn't helped you show any more empathy to people around you that are different than you. Instead, you put your nose up at other people, even though you apparently have this big, great perspective from reading history. It has not given you a great perspective. It hasn't even given you any empathy from that perspective.
You cannot have any insight into the state of things today if you don't know anything about how things were yesterday. You cannot understand people. You can't understand yourself if you don't know history.
Some of this is generally true. Like, it's good to obviously have an understanding of your context and the world around you, and a little bit of an understanding of history, of course. But again, we have Matt Walsh here who doesn't understand trans people, even though he apparently understands history. So again, he's kind of shooting himself in the foot almost.
Like, living your life today without ever studying history, it's like picking up a book and starting it somewhere in the middle without any concern for what happened in the 20 chapters that you skipped. Now, I realize this analogy may fly over the heads of dummies who don't read in the first place, but...
Does anybody remember when Matt Walsh accused me of not reading the study that I attached to my video responding to him? And then it actually turned out that I had read the study and what I said was backed up by the study, and it was actually Matt Walsh himself that didn't read the study.
Today we cancel someone named Hunter Avallone. I'm not impressed by the ability to Google a study that confirms whatever conclusion you'd already landed on and then fling it at the other side after briefly skimming the abstract. You, on the other hand, have one study that focuses on people who transitioned as adults, not as children, and which, according to you, found that there was no increase in suicide rate, and that the suicide rate was still much higher than the general population. Now, you blithely declare that this was due to, quote, social issues, not the transition. Well, you made it up, of course.
Didn't he just accuse me of sending him studies that I actually didn't read? This is the study he's referencing. Trends in suicide, death risk in transgender people. If you type in F3 on the study and type in social, a recent literature review clearly demonstrates the specific risk factors for suicide in sexual minority youth, which includes negative social environments. The fact that you accuse me of not actually reading my evidence, and then you would go on to try and make this kind of an argument, which betrays the fact that you didn't read the study, is embarrassing. It's just really ironic now hearing him talk about how dumb people don't read, when literally last time me and him got in some beef, he didn't fucking read.
History is full of stories that are just plain fascinating. Like, how does this not interest you? You're missing out on so many amazing adventures. For example, I just finished a book called River of Darkness about the Spanish conquistador Francisco de Orellana, who in 1541 traveled over the Andes Mountains and into the Amazon. And he got into the Amazon, and then they needed a ship. So they set up a manufacturing facility, basically. They built a ship from scratch. They had to manufacture the nails first to build the ship, right down to they didn't have nails, right? They're in the jungle. There's no.
Dude, God bless Matt Walsh's wife. She has to sit around listening to this shit and pretending to be interested in it. I don't like to call myself a dummy or anything, but maybe it's just the way Matt Walsh explains history, just makes it like a snooze fest.
How could any man hear a story like that and say, who cares? You have to have the intellectual depth of a puddle of piss on the bathroom floor, if that's your reaction. No offense.
You would have to have the intellectual depth of a puddle of piss on the bathroom floor to watch Matt Walsh and consider any of his advice to be valid or reasonable or even good advice. Like, you've not only pissed yourself, you've shat the whole bed.
Like, you have to be very stupid and very boring. Not the kind of man any woman should want to date. And that is why...
I don't know, Matt. You read history and you seem very stupid and very boring to me. You also lack perspective significantly. You also are very stupid when it comes to social issues like the issue of trans people and gender and everything else. So you yourself are a defeater to your own argument. Thank you, Matt Walsh. You're good at looking like a lumberjack, but that's about all.
Those historically illiterate men are today canceled. Hey, YouTube.
Oh, so historically illiterate men are canceled. Okay. I'm pretty sure I could find so many clips of Matt Walsh claiming that like this whole gender stuff is brand new, even though it's actually throughout history as well. Okay, well, there you go. Single ladies, next time you're on a date and you want to catch the eye of that handsome autistic guy, sit down and ask him what his favorite time period is in history or something. If you're a normal person, I don't know, ask him what he likes to do for fun on his day off. I can definitely say now that my favorite time period in history is right now, because I'm finally done watching this pathetic Matt Walsh video.